Media is powerful in shaping perception, and it can be used for good or evil. Whether we're talking about articles, motion pictures, magazine covers, TV commercials, radio ads, or even podcast spotlights, us humans have an interesting way of believing what we see and hear before fact-checking. In fact, media played a huge role in Hitler's campaign to exterminate Jewish people. It also ensured the perpetuity of American slavery until its abolishment. Media has the power to start and stop wars, and it can also take your business to the next level or destroy it in the blink of an eye. Hi, I'm 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗶𝘲𝘀𝗀𝗏. How you and your business show up in the world can make or break your ability to operate successfully. Image is everything. You see, the brain is an image associating mechanism, and words are powerful too. Combined, words and images affect a team's ability to work together and make something magical. That's what today's guest will teach us in this de facto masterclass on media and public relations. And it's about to get real, really real. As the musician Pharrell said, the truth will set you free, but first, it'll piss you off. This is Season 12, Episode 149. Let's start the show.
Welcome to Business Infrastructure, the podcast about curing back office blues of fast-growing businesses. If you're a business owner or operator looking for practical tips and solutions to scaling your business in a sustainable manner, you're in the right place. Now here's your hostess, 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗶𝘲𝘀𝗀𝗏.
This season, we are talking about the impact of diversity and digital transformation on how you actually operate your business. And joining me today in the New York City area is Stephen Cuoco. He's the founder and owner at Power 98.5 Satellite Radio, as well as the United Angels Dream public relations firm. And let me tell you, Steve is a highly sought after positioning expert for companies that are looking to build relationships with millennials and other emerging generations. And just in the short time that I have known him, Stephen has been an invaluable resource to me, as well as a much needed voice of reason. And I'm really honored that he's agreed to come onto the show. So without any further ado, Stephen, welcome. How are you, my friend?
Good day to you, my dear friend, 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘂𝘂𝗀. I'm doing awesome.
You are such a ball of energy, and I know people are going to experience you and all of the wonderful things that come along with you and the energy that you bring as we progress through this interview. So I'd like to tell people how we met. It was actually through social media, through Clubhouse, actually, and we can get into more of the mechanics of that later. But you were a panelist on probably one of the best discussions I've been a part of so far on Clubhouse. And I think it was on how to pitch media. And Stephen, you were a panelist, and I was just so impressed by every answer that you gave, every piece of advice, every tip that you shared. And I thought, I have to meet him. But I'm curious, how did your career in public relations begin?
Great question. I would say that it was around 17, 18 years old. I had finished high school early, had taken pre-college classes. By the age of 17 and a half, 18, actually was working or got a working pass at the time for a video production company. And when I had graduated from high school and I was able to devote more time into public relations, into marketing, advertising, the whole industry, all of that's PR, marketing, and advertising. I went full time and at the age of 18, and I really enjoyed it. Public relations is a people industry, and most people get confused by thinking that public relations is just media placement. And that's not what public relations is about. So when you're thinking of media placement, that is probably, I'm going to say 1% out of 100. Everything else is passionately understanding, knowing, and to be able to in a fiduciary and judiciary way, financial and legal way, and its responsibility is to know your client or client's company, whatever it may be. And even to today, there are times when someone will ask me about PR and what I can do for them in the media. And I was like, well, what about you? What about your company? How many employees do you have? What are your goals? What's your terms and conditions? What are you facilitating? What are you offering? What's your narrative? And they kind of like, wow, we've never been asked these questions before. Usually, a company will just take my money, and a marketing or advertising company or PR, and they'll just go out there, and my wording would be give a promissory note that they're going to work on media placement. But I'm like, how are they facilitating even more about your company? How are they working with you with customer client retention, referrals, advocacy? And they're stumped because these are things that they don't discuss, or it's not bridged in conversation.
So what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, Stephen, is the PR work that you do is not in isolation of everything else that your clients have going on at their companies.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, specifically, how did your career in radio begin?
It was something I was not embracing. I've always wanted television. I still want to be on TV. I actually just got casted for a game show. I've got to procure 4 other contestants on the game show network out in California. And because I'm bi-coastal, so I also have residency on the West Coast.
Okay.
So with that, I have 3 other contestants. Now I'm looking for 1. However, which is a little bit of a pickle here, is you only need 4 people to play the game. However, you have to have a 5th as a contingency for backup, just in case if someone can't make it, schedule, so on and so forth. So I'm on my 5th person that I'm looking for, and which won't be hard, but it's like, okay, how can I say that you may just be a fill-in? Like, who's going to want to go to a studio, have the opportunity to play on a live game show, potentially win $15,000 and be told, well, you're going to be on the sideline. It's like a football game or so. It's like everyone wants to play.
Right.
But I'm not worried about it. But to make a long story short, is answering that question is that's where I wanted to go. That's where I wanted to lead into. I would love to get on Big Brother. I'm going to be casting for this coming season's Big Brother. I'm going to be doing that today.
Wow.
And with radio, I just found that musicians who approach me, who look for consulting, mentorship, public relations, I have no problem mentoring, but I cannot and will not take money, especially from music artists, which we all know that it's a fraction of a pennies on a dollar that these men and women make in this business, unless they get some major record deal, but they're then in the red. And most people don't know that when major record labels or even management companies come in, and they come in, whether it be, which is rare, an angel investor, but as an investor, they have to pay this money back. So normally this is why their masters are owned. I find that deplorable.
Mm.
I believe that if you're going to come in as an investor, do it on the basis because you believe in the artist, believe in what the artist is doing, what they're saying, what their context is about, but everything is real estate. And I always say this to people, everything in life is real estate. Our bodies are real estate. When people donate organs, whatever it may be, everything is property. And the question is what's the value of the property? And too many people focus more on the value and the equation of the property, whether human or not, than they do the actual content and the identity and the pure being of who a person is, subject matter, or when it comes to business, what is being facilitated. So pre-pandemic, I decided what I'm going to do is just give in. It came by recommendation. I got to a point to where I can advise, but I tell these music artists, you can create your own EPK. You don't need to be paying me $500, $1,500. Like some of these companies take advantage of these people of all ages. It's not just young people, but even those that are in their 40s and 50s that want to be upcoming and break out into the industry. And I just decided to myself and for myself, why not? And a good friend of mine who is in radio and broadcasting for a major, well-known, I'm going to put iHeartRadio, said, why don't you launch a satellite radio station? I said, well, what about the legal purposes? It's like, I've got to go learn law. I got to go learn about copyright law, intellectual property law again, but now for media and broadcasting. Got in copyright attorney, two of them to advise me, educate me, and then delved right into educating myself in the books. Then I contacted BMI, ASCAP, CSAC that help with royalties to or for musicians, and then Sound Exchange, which covers the public performance, whether it's internet, bars, clubs. And I just really had taken probably about almost a year to just really grasp the educational component of it. And then there's financial. And it's a lot of money to be licensed. I'm licensed with BMI, ASCAP, and Sound Exchange, then the operations of it. And I just said to my friend, just something clicked, and it was recommended before throughout my life. And just for some reason, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, this time it just cemented. And I thought, what the heck, why not? So I did it. And ever since then, and more specifically, now as a public relations representative, I feel absolutely excited and happy that I can morally and ethically, but most importantly, legally represent a music artist, because now that I'm licensed, I can facilitate my live on air with 𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 radio show. I can do live music drops. I've got playlists. I am legally licensed where I can do more for these music artists than just put an electronic press kit together or mentor them. I hope that answers your question. I'm still passionate about TV. As I told you, I'm going to be casting for Big Brother later on. But at the same time, it's been absolutely rewarding because I've been able to give voice to people who don't have a voice. They have a very difficult time to where when it comes to media, it's considered marketing and advertising. They are immediately sent to the sales department. I've had clients that have been told this. I have called on behalf of clients, but more importantly, and I'm just going to put it out there, whether it's iHeartRadio or Cumulus Media or any type of other media broadcasting, I've been told several times, as well as my clients, that if you are not with a major record label, we cannot play your music. Now, you can find college radio stations, they will do it. Nonprofit stations, they will do it or may do it, depending on if the criteria or if you fit into their platform. But when we're talking about corporate companies, I'm not going to say that they don't. We have what is called locals only out here. You know, a station that is owned by iHeart, and they will do a locals only on Sunday. But the thing of it is that they don't make money on one-time airplay. They need multi-millions to billions of streams in order to make dollars, couple $100. So for me, you know, like I said, it's a way for me to say and to do something that's not corporate, that is my responsibility as a PR rep, as someone that's in media and broadcasting, and as a journalist. My responsibility is for the people. And if it's not for the people, then you shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't be in business to do it. And you shouldn't be looking first and foremost for the transaction to help someone or to facilitate their dreams and goals if they're just a piece of property to you.
Wow. Just listening to you just now, Stephen, it just, again, further cemented why I have so much respect and admiration for you, because just going through that educational piece and learning about all of the legalities of the industry, and then not only educating yourself about it, but actually doing it and implementing it yourself. And that just makes you even more valuable, I guess, to the people that you work with, because you're able to give them advice and consult them from the inside out as well as from the outside in, if that makes sense. At least that's what I'm hearing.
Perfectly expressed. That's I love that. Thank you, 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘂𝘂𝗀𝘂. That's exactly what I do. I'm a people person that works, more specifically, who's passionate, that engages in a people industry to help people become more exposed, more aware, more understood because it's not about me, it's their narrative. I just interviewed someone yesterday who's very hesitant about being interviewed because we all know the narrative's controlled. And it's my good friend, I don't mind sharing, Dr. Jody. And he was my first doctor I ever interviewed on my satellite radio show. But most importantly is that he was the energy, the inflection, how he said it, in the way that he said it, the passion. It's about helping people feel better about themselves, to feel heard. And you know this, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, so many people for so long of all race and cultures and identity don't believe that they are heard unless you pay for something or purchase something or buy a program or purchase whatever that person or business is selling. And you shouldn't be heard first by a transaction, because everything is transactional. What we're doing right now, our time is transactional. Information is transactional. Knowledge is transactional. Understanding, you and I, with the relationship we've built with each other, is transactional. But the question is what form of transaction is it? And how is it going to help be able to move us forward in a way that doesn't cost us anything, that doesn't feel like it cost us something, but most importantly, first and foremost, help someone feel great about themselves, the decision that they made, and to be able to pass that on to someone else, to break the cycle of greed and arrogance. And that's not what's happening. It's getting worse. The greed and the arrogance is just getting absolutely worse. And now, not only did I launch the satellite radio station, launched a satellite radio show for the people, now as a PR rep, I'm going against the grain. And I don't care whether you call me WikiLeaks, Stephen, the WikiLeaks of PR, whatever. This information needs to be known. Life doesn't need to be hard, but you will not find, from what my experience, I'm not saying they are not out there, but what I'm doing is an anomaly. I'm sure there is someone else like me out there that is blowing the whistle or giving a WikiLeaks aspect of, this is what you can do to help yourself, and I'm not going to take advantage of you to help you or to take your money because you think I can help you. That's what everyone, no matter what business you're in. But for speaking for PR, going to tell you, and I'm going to close here, I'm not one to exaggerate or embellish. And I definitely don't like to paraphrase if I don't have to. With that being said, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, is for at least, if not every couple weeks, or definitely once a month, someone is DMing me, Facebook, Instagram, calling me, emailing me, or a representative of talent, management, agencies contacting me. We got screwed by this PR agency.
Wow.
We don't know what to do. How much money did you spend? The tens of thousands. I had someone that came to me who spent $60,000. This marketing company went and did a Wix website. They copy and pasted all of the content. They used stock content online and did videos or created videos that I guarantee you a 10-year-old, especially as intelligent as these kids are, could have done a better job on their phone.
Wow.
And with this, and charged $60,000. I told her, take their ass to court and get an attorney.
That's so heartbreaking. And I also, I mean, I haven't spent $60,000, but I've certainly spent a lot of good, hard-earned money after publicists and other digital marketing folks, and only to be extremely disappointed, and it didn't yield the results that they promised. But beyond that, to your point, Stephen, is so many people will just take your money and have no intention of really helping you because they don't ask the questions that you're asking. They aren't trying to understand the narrative. They aren't trying to understand your story. They aren't trying to help you. You know, I know this word is being overused right now, but amplify your voice, because to your point, so many people don't feel that they're being heard. And this is such a great segue into what I want to talk to you about now, and that is, I know you've written a book, you have a digital magazine, you've done work in TV, you have your own radio station. So basically all forms of media. Now, some people might look at your work experience and your work portfolio and say, well, wow, Stephen, that's a very diverse work portfolio. But I'm curious, how do you define diversity in terms of the workplace?
The question is what sort of diversity are we referring to? Because there are many
Exactly.
different layers of diversity.
Right. And that's exactly basically what I was hoping you would say, because it does. It means different things to different people. And depending on the context, it can take on a very different meaning. But please continue.
The first part I would say is when it comes to media, public relations, broadcasting, more specifically media and broadcasting, is there are articles out there that have been written by saying or stating, speculating that, traditional news is starving for content. Well, if traditional news, or however you want to interpret television and magazines or newspapers or even radio stations, then why is it all controlled? Why is it contrived? Let me bring up a point here. So we all know that there is this theme programs called, they like to call them councils, okay? There are major media outlets out there that have these councils that they talk about, okay? Where you can go in as a PR rep, if you're in media, if you're in business, and you can write articles on these major forums, these platforms. You Google it, you will find out. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Here's the second part. What do I mean by that, 𝗕𝗂𝘂? Is these television stations and magazines and radio stations and radio shows and newspapers are not starving. Why? Because they are writing for the consumers. They are not writing for the people. They are writing for the advertisers. To be very blunt, that's why you see those ugly little advertising pieces where it says advertising in the middle of the article. Why is that garbage there? Put it on the side. They do not write or advertise for you. They have to answer to their sponsors. They have to answer to their investors. And they go out there and they have analysts that understand who's looking at Shawn Mendes, who's looking at 𝗕𝗂𝘂, who's looking at Bill Gates. And then what they do is they utilize their staff writers. And what I mean is paid content, paid advertising. And more specifically, this one media company approached me recently, and it's a paid service. And I'd like to be slightly vague, just in case, because people are so happy. So just in case, but the media is writing about how there is a side to where they're disdained about using distribution companies or major, and I mean major, well-established, known companies that are now doing what I call a LinkedIn scheme scam council, however you want to put that word in front of the council. And these programs you pay for. You pay membership fees, and you can write about whatever it is within your business. Certain ones give you certain leverage, certain abilities, like being a contributing writer, but there are media outlets, top media outlets, that charge a membership fee to be a contributing writer as well.
Yeah.
So you have regular media that has staff writers that write specifically to their advertisers and to their sponsors and investors, not to the readers. Then you have your distribution companies where you control the narrative and the context, which I respect and appreciate, because it's rare that you will find any media company that's going to write to your narrative and to your context specifically. They're not. Once again, and they're going to have to write to somebody else, or they lose their investment and they lose their reputation. So they have to keep up with smoke and mirrors. So if you go with a distribution company and you're a marketing, advertising, or PR, I don't see a problem with it. Because if there's a way to get yourself out there, whether it's through Yahoo Finance, the Wall Street Journal, I believe Entrepreneur is one of those, whatever it is that can pick up that through a distribution. Bloomberg is another one. It's a press release. you're getting it out there. Now, if it's just you, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, I would have to find out more information and be like, I don't know if it would be in your best interest to work with a distribution company to publish your own self media if you don't fall into certain categories. But if you hire a reputation that can help go out there and give what I call a big bang, a big boom, why not? But then you have the third companies, these media businesses that are losing millions, if not hundreds to millions of dollars because readership is down. People are not buying newspapers anymore. You don't need to. They're not buying magazines. Millennials and younger generations, even my generation, they're very auditory. People have become too fast, too much on a move to where they only want to listen. I'm going to tell you, I'm not into, we're doing the Zoom audio, but I'm not into the visuals. I'm not into, doing visuals on there. People don't watch that. Look what Kelly and Ryan, they tried it. It was a flop. Look at how a lot of these television shows were trying to do the 6 feet apart and do the little Zoom type of stuff, Wendy Williams and all that. It looked ridiculous. And now they're all back in the studio, separated, but now they're back in the studio because it doesn't work. People don't want to watch that. It looks, in my opinion, it looks cheap. It's tacky. And why I say this is because you can find better content on YouTube. And when you're in business, any business, you have a presence and a presentation that you must meet to its standards. And if something looks like anyone can do it, you have no value in it. There is no value. You cannot equate a value. Even if you are a major top celebrity, you have to equate the visual audio value. And I guarantee you, if a 10-year-old can do what a multi-platinum Grammy Emmy Award winner is doing, it has no value. So with these media companies now, when the third aspect is paid content, paid partnership, and you go in and you pay these fees and you get to write on some platforms what you want, you can use content. But this specific one who reached out to me, I was like, okay, can I use video? Can I use photos of the talent? No. Well, where are they going to get it from? What happens if I want to write about you, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, in this major top publication? Where are they going to get your photo and content? I asked, okay, are you licensed with 𝗕𝗽, Shutterstock, Backgrid? Where are you getting this content? No answer. All right, what about the narrative? I don't write in first person. I send out Q&As, and I want to add 𝗕𝗂𝘂's context into there. I'm going to put some stuff in my viewpoint, objective viewpoint, even though it's all subjective, but from a subjective to objective, from the facts you're telling me and to the best of my ability, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, that I can vet and verify, and then I'm going to add your context. You can't do that. It's like, then what the heck's the purpose? You want me to pay $2,000, $1,500 a year membership, $500 up front to write business content when you've got other people talking about PR, which in my opinion is a conflict of interest. And then you're also adding no self-promotion. I said, everything is self-promotion. I said, when I go to your website, you're self-promoting up top. You're using people's articles to garner and acquire new people. I said, this is a LinkedIn scheme. That's what it is. This isn't journalism. This isn't media. This is business. And I said, this publication is a primary music magazine digital publication. It's been that way since the 60s, 70s. Everybody knows it. Okay.
So Stephen, you mentioned, a LinkedIn type counsel. What exactly do you mean by that? Is it that there are people out there who seek to connect with others, people like you, for example, they seek you on LinkedIn, and then they maybe invite you to connect, and then the moment you accept their invitation, they start pitching you? Is that what you're talking about?
But it's not just LinkedIn. What I mean by LinkedIn style, and I think LinkedIn is great for SEO purposes, but I like LinkedIn and I don't. And I'm going to say, and I don't know if you remember this, I don't respect the business aspect of those that use that platform because it's too sales pitchy. And that's why I refer to as LinkedIn. How many times and I'm going to put it to you this way. I'm not criticizing LinkedIn. I'm criticizing the aspect of the platform in a way that it's misused. It's misused in a way when I receive connections and those connections have some sales pitched email robot, bot, or even plan or devised from that person already implemented the moment I accept the connection, even before I accept a connection. Because when I look at my email, it will show me at times when someone's trying to connect to me on LinkedIn, there's some sales pitch that my email shows me that's attached to the messaging before I connect. And I'm like, do these people know? And I'm going to tell you, I've tested this out. Every single person, I still have the messages. Every single message that comes up, I'm like, give me a call. Or sometimes I will respond back with the message. Did you guys look at my website? Oh no, I haven't had time yet, but I really liked your LinkedIn. What about my LinkedIn profile stood out to you? Well, you seem to be doing a lot of things in the media and PR world. That tells me you didn't freaking read it. Because I want specifics. I see you were an international best-selling author. Congratulations. Oh, really? Did you buy my book? No, I haven't had the chance, but I would love to. I see that you work with a lot of top people in the industry. Oh, really? Who stood out the most to you that you really liked, or what you liked about, and what we had worked on together, or what I had done for them from a PR marketing perspective, or just more specifically, let's just say PR. Because I kind of like to stay away. I don't like to be referred to or thought of as a marketer or advertiser either. But PR, they have no answer. Or we go through a long pause, and then there are some times I will get a response back hours later, or maybe a day later. Oh, so sorry, didn't get back to you right away. Either two areas. Either one, I have to take a look. Let me take a look. Or they will come back with some information. And because they were only scratched the surface and probably maybe Googled and just read some little snippet. You see what I'm talking about?
I totally get it. Okay, now I get it.
Behavior, not LinkedIn behavior.
Yes, yes. I'd love to talk about that because you're right. It's not just LinkedIn. It can happen on Instagram, and there's been some bad behavior also on Clubhouse. And, unfortunately, a lot of these social media platforms, the people who create these platforms don't design them with that intent, but unfortunately, you're going to have people who misuse it, right? So I definitely understand what you're talking about.
And real quick to add into that, another thing that is very crucial for people to know that's part of PR, that is a 24/7 responsibility and job, is reputation management. And that's the biggest thing that I look into when I get to know someone, 𝗕𝗂𝘂, is to find out what sort of reputation have they created for themselves. What are they doing when it comes to understanding oneself? Are they creating smoke and mirrors? Are they creating a facade? Because the number one thing I always say, when you're in front of a casting director, a producer, you're pitching your ideas, you're going to be sized up, and people are going to know, these major people are going to know exactly whether you are pitching an idea or if you are pitching a true identity. And that's misperception and disconnection that happens where public relations people take advantage to use and abuse their power financially with people or talent, because things could be manufactured, and then the talent or the person or company then has a very difficult time to keep up with those standards or that facade. And then you have the flip side when it comes to reputation management, to where if the person is really talented and you are sticking to a narrative and context, I have been told, and my clients have been told, your engagement is not high enough. You don't have enough followers. You are not verified. Why are you not verified? I can't find a lot of information out there. Well, of course you can't find a lot of information about my client, because when I reach out to people, it either doesn't fit into their content, and it sure the heck doesn't, because they don't write for the people, they write for their advertisers and investors and sponsors. So how are they supposed to get anywhere? How are they supposed to get verified? How are they supposed to be able to build their financial identity and prospect as a business or talent when you're constantly told you are not relevant until a major record label says you're relevant. The Grammy says you're relevant. The Oscars says you're relevant. JP Morgan says you're relevant. Time Magazine says you're relevant. You're all screwed. That's why I say if you got to work with a PR for distribution, do it. Because in my field, that's the way to go until you can get someone that's going to want to listen to you and to hear you, or do it in whatever way that you need to do it for yourself. But I highly don't recommend to be paying memberships to media companies and outlets to write when you can't write for your people or your client. You have to write on their terms and conditions.
Yes, yes. And I definitely want to take a deeper dive into some of these other digital technologies that you recommend people can leverage, or things that you might recommend in terms of building what I call your credibility stack. Because you're right, if a Time Magazine or a JP Morgan doesn't recognize you or your idea or the contributions that you say you can bring, then you can have the best idea in the world. But if you don't have a platform, or if no one ever gives you a chance to express that idea and get it out there to the world, then it'll never get anywhere. Okay, so we were starting to go down the path of talking about LinkedIn and other social media technologies. And I loved what you said from a diversity perspective, that so many people feel that they are, in fact, not being heard, whether it's multi-generational type issues. I know you consult with companies, Stephen, on specifically working with millennials and other emerging generations. Some people look at diversity from work experience perspective. Some look at it from a race, culture, ethnicity perspective, age. I mean, there's so many different things that we can take into consideration. But what I'd like to do is discuss this from a business infrastructure perspective. So for those of you who are listening to this show for the first time, business infrastructure is a system for how you link your people, your processes, and your tools and technologies to ensure that growth happens in a profitable and a sustainable way. Something that you mentioned earlier, Stephen, you were talking about, I just made a note of some of the key people that you mentioned for those who are listening, who are trying to figure out, wow, we have this great company. We're providing what we think are some excellent products and services. We just need to break through media-wise. So you mentioned a copyright attorney. I also heard you mention the fact that, for example, when you were starting your radio show, your satellite radio show, that you made it a point to get licensed with BMI, ASCAP, and Sound Exchange, was it? Now, who are some of the other key people that you recommend in terms of, again, is there something, and I know this is this is an unfair question, what I'm about to ask you, but from a very generic standpoint, as of 2021, from a people perspective, what is it that some of the major media outlets are looking for when it comes to small business owners? Are they looking to see that you have a diverse workforce? And how would that be represented or pitched to a media outlet?
So let me give you the WikiLeaks facts.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a
Please.
couple layers.
Okay.
So with answering that, I can't speak for any media outlets because, as I told you before, they write for their advertisers, sponsors, and investors. So let's go to the race part. We all know what recently happened with the Grammys. I didn't watch it. I don't know if you did, but I'm sure you heard the debacle between two of the female artists on stage, correct?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So Google the Grammys, this year Grammys, and you're going to find for two ethnic women that appear to be very sane, coherent, sophisticated, and talented, are gyrating, sexually exploiting themselves in their content. And the number one thing that I find very odd is when we look at Asian women in music, they're presented as paper doll cheerleaders. When we look at Black women in music, they're portrayed as gangsters and strippers. And these two women were porning on stage. And I'm going to honestly say, not just speaking for the music industry, but is a big, big problem across the board. And anytime that if someone who's Asian or African American or Latin comes to me, I tell them I will not go first to platforms and outlets that are culturally based just for you. So let's say if someone that's African American, like I said to you before, I believe I had said to you, 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘂, if you were to come to me, I will go to the Caucasian outlets before, or more of the mainstream, what I call that seem to be more diverse, before I were to go to Essence magazine or anything that's specifically just African American. Because if anyone of any race and culture, white, black, tan, beige, if you stay in your own lane, you can't complain about racism or segregation or limitation if you're only staying in your own lane. I say this to the LGBT community all the time. Why are you staying only in your own lane? Why are you only going after publications that only talk about LGBT people and content? It doesn't make sense. We are not going to have or acquire diversity if these stereotypes keep happening. And if we allow, or people allow, media outlets to keep the so-called diversity segregated. Go on Google, and I mean this to yourself. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to go on Google. Actually, I like MSN. So let me go here, and I'm going to go on the MSN main page. And I'm going to, you want to look at the first couple areas here. So I'm seeing talks about trucks, March Madness. They're using a photo of a African-American man. I don't understand what March Madness has. March Madness picks, ranking Friday's NCAA games by watchability. All right. So they're showing an African-American man slam dunking a basketball. I don't see the point in using that photo for that. I'm not saying not to use that, but why not show someone with a face smiling? It's all about presentation, just like the two major music artists on the Grammys were literally on the ground, gyrating their vaginas together. We've got credit cards here, and I'm just looking at a prospect. So, we've got white. Sarah Silverman says, CDC using a white woman photo. Kellyanne Conway. It's all white. You will rarely see Latinos and African Americans primarily on a lot of these things. Go on Google, go to E! News, go to Entertainment Weekly, go to MSN. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm going on facts. That's what my responsibility is, to go objectively on facts. What is in front of me? What am I reading? What am I experiencing? And I'm going to go to, let's say, pull up E! News, or I'm going to go to entertainment. Let's go to Entertainment News. I'm going to pull up E! Online. And we have Kardashians. We have another Courtney, Scott. Why do we need to see two of the same people? You're telling me those are the only two important people in media? You couldn't have added a different one. So you have to have both on the same page of trending now. They're that popular to where they're trending now. Then you got Paris Hilton. You got Mila Kunis. I scroll down a little bit. It's like, where's the color? I'm still scrolling down. We got royals. We got Kardashians again. We got Punky Brewster. It's just redundancy. Don't get fooled by these major networks because they have TV shows on here and someone comes out, well, we're talking about them 17 times because there's no one else. Who else is on the show you can talk about? They're the only ones on the show you can only talk about. This is my point. And yes, stereotype. And a big problem in the music industry, Black women are prostituted or forced to portray themselves as prostitutes, drug dealers, drug addicts, even the men, drug dealers, drug addicts. They want Black men to be holding guns in their videos, okay? They want Machine Gun Kelly to be smoking pot all over the place and to come across either lethargic or combative or rebellious. This behavior is encouraged in the industry because it makes sales, okay? A lot of people think that Black people buy Black music. That's false. It's Caucasians and Asians and Latinos that buy African-American music. It's the Caucasians that are sitting on their $60 million yachts, drinking their Cosmos and their martinis and whatever else may have you with their friends and family and acting idiotic, or what some people would say, not of their race, because that's a pastime thing to do. White people have done it back in the days before slavery, during slavery, and it still happens today. People of ethnicity are treated as entertainment objects. Something that you buy as a thing because it's in, like print leopard 8-inch heels, but no one wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about why we just saw 2 women, one who's a mother. I don't know much about the other artists. I don't keep up with that. But 2 women on the ground, Black women on the ground, gyrating their vaginas and their bodies, wearing ridiculous costumes and acting as a puppet for their label, for entertainment, for TV.
Well, let me ask you this, Steve. Is there hope? so
Not
people
if this
who
shit
are
keeps going the way it's going. No. Let me put it to you this way, real quick, if I may say this. The whole thing of this, there is hope. Stop selling your soul. Stop giving up your right. Stop trying, Christian 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝘀, a producer, director, friend of mine who I just recently interviewed. Stop doing things to give someone else power so that you can become successful, financially free, whatever it is. That's where we have hope. There are people like me. There are people like you. Yes, we have hope there. But the question is as long as this content is forced in front of children, in front of people, and you're being told that those that are ethnic either have to hold a gun, smoke pot, or get on the ground and act like animals, worse than animals, to be gyrating on stage, when this is a music performance, not a porn performance, but being presented as a porn performance, no, it's not going to stop. Because these are people that are given power. These are people that are given voice to be told they're the only ones you are supposed to listen to.
Wow. Well, I told you, everyone, Stephen does not hold his tongue. He says it like it is. As my mother, growing up, my mother would always tell me, I'm just going to tell it to you like it is.
It's not just my responsibility. It's my passion. It's as I live with myself, and no matter what you believe in or don't, I know that when I stand before God, I would like to peacefully receive with open arms and smile on my Lord's face, welcome home. How many people of any age would want to stand before a parent or a guardian or an elder or a role model or someone that you need to explain when you knew better, why did you do that? I am not going to be explaining to God, even myself here or someone else, because there are always so-called fact checkers. There are always people watching when you think they're not watching.
Yes.
And one day, the more exposed you become, one day I get it now, and it may come later in a very kind way. But there are people that vet me. There are people that do research me. There are media outlets before interviewing me, research. I know, and I am not going to put myself purposely in a position to have to answer to something because I abused and neglected myself and abused and neglected someone else to get further in this world. And when I meet God, when I see my Lord again, that's the number one thing I would like to not have to answer because my head is not going to be held up high. It's going to be looking down low in shame.
Mm. Wow. I'm so sorry that we have to wrap things up because there's so much more to say. We didn't get to talk more about the digital transformation piece, but that's perfectly
I
okay
can come
because
back on and do that.
okay, well, let's do it because you did mention several things, but before we close, how can people get in touch with you? Because I know there are people who are going to be listening to this and they're going to think, wow, I need to contact Stephen. And do you teach courses? How do you typically work with your clients?
Typically, I always say, give me a phone call. 908-329-5131.
I'm s-
908-329-5131. Give me a call. If you are an emailer, send me an email. But once again, my goal, my responsibility, my judiciary legal responsibility is to vet and verify. I cannot help you if I'm not able to talk to you, if I'm not able to go through all the facts about you, and if I'm not maybe even possibly able to see you. I will not work with anyone who hides behind text messages and emails. I don't do it because I cannot, whether you are a client or a prospective client, I always look at everything here like this. I'm going to close with this and let you take the mic if I may, 𝗕𝗂𝘂. I
yes.
think of everything from a legal perspective. And I think to myself, when or if I have to stand before a judge on your behalf or your defense, how will I help your case by solidifying and verifying the facts? And if I cannot physically see you, talk to you, I will not do business with you. Not that I can't, I won't. Are there a lot of other people that will? Yes, they'll be more than happy to take your money and never see you and won't even care to know anything about you and your business. I care. So if you care about yourself, and I always say this lastly, I was thinking I was done, but lastly, whenever I'm asked, well, what are your prices? I always ask the person, what is the value of your life, your sanity, and your peace of mind? Because I don't have a set value of what I charge for everyone. It all depends on how much I'm going to be putting in time and effort into that. But I always like to find out from someone how they see themselves. What is the value they see themselves? And I require sometimes, give me a price. How do you either rate or what would you pay for someone to give you the peace of mind to know that you've got safety, security, and an ally that is going to want and work hard and at their best for you and your company and your identity and your reputation?
Wow, Steve, this was great. This was fantastic. I knew it would be. And I knew it was unfair to ask you to try to cram all of this information into an hour or less. But what I would like to do is just kind of quickly recap some quotables that I jotted down as you spoke. The first one being just defining what public relations is and the fact that public relations is a people industry. It's not just about media placement. In fact, as you said, that's really only about 1% of it. I also liked when you said that everything in life is real estate. And the question is, what is the value of the property? And speaking of value, something else that you said, if you have something that looks like everyone else can do it, then it has no value. So a lot of times for us business owners, we have to constantly think about what is our unique selling proposition? What is our competitive advantage? What is it that we can do? What is it that we can say or tout that not everybody else can say, do, or tout? Thank you for bringing that up. And I'd also like to just reiterate when you said, Steve, that at the end of the day, if you want to leverage media to really bring attention and awareness to your cause, to your business, your product, your service, it's all about reputation management. That is so critical in PR. Are you pitching an idea or are you pitching an identity? Because as Stephen said, people are watching you. They may not say anything to you now. It may be a couple of months later, could be some years later, but they are watching you. What will be said when they come back to you and approach you? So thank you so much, my friend. I really, really appreciated this. And again, if you want more details about Stephen, Power 98.5 satellite radio, as well as United Angels Dream PR firm. Can we give them your website?
Yes, please.
Stephen? Oh, it's www.𝗕𝗂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀
repeat that one more time? What are they pitching? That's very important because most people don't know this or ask. Can you repeat that real quick again?
Are you pitching an idea or are you pitching an identity? Is that the part?
That's the part.
Okay.
And here for that. Great job,
Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you for the sound effects. I appreciate it. Now, everyone who's listening, Steve gave us quite a bit of resources. So I'm going to make sure that we compile all of that information and make sure that you can access it in the show notes to this episode. And the best way to get to that is through businessinfrastructure.tv. Again, we're going to have links to all of the resources that Steve was kind enough to share with us. We'll also have a link to his digital magazine, as well as his book and some of the other things that he has going on. Again, that's businessinfrastructure.tv. When you get there, there's a search icon that you can click on. You can type in Stephen Cuoco. That's STEVENCUOCO. Or you can just select season 12 and you'll find this episode. You'll also find more information on our sponsors. Supporting them helps us keep this show free for you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a loyal subscriber. Remember, stay focused, be encouraged. This entrepreneurial journey is a marathon and not a sprint. Until the next time.
Thank you for listening to Business Infrastructure, the podcast about curing back office blues with 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗃 𝗕𝗫𝗄𝗃. If you like what you've heard, do us a favor and subscribe, leave a rating and review, and more importantly, share with your colleagues and team members who could benefit from the information. Join us next week for another episode of Business Infrastructure with 𝗕𝗂𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗃 𝗕𝗫𝗄𝗃.